Hi all, this is Deepthi here and I work for Enable India, and welcome to the orientation on Enable India processes. Now the first question to you all is, what is a process? What is your idea of a process? If you're watching this video, pause it for 2 seconds and put down your thoughts. Okay, I'm sure you've put down a lot of thoughts. A process, according to us, is defined as a series of steps or actions taken in order to achieve a particular goal or a particular end. Now, why do you think processes are important, especially in Enable India? Again, if you're watching this video, take a few minutes, pause it and put down your thoughts. Okay, I'm sure you put down a lot of thoughts. We'll tell you why we thought processes were important in Enable India. First thing, process brings about a lot of transparency in work. It helps another person understand how you have gone about doing your work. And when you're working in a big organization like Enable India in different locations, it's very important for people to know how you achieved that end or goal. What are the different actions you took to achieve that goal? That kind of a transparency is very important. Therefore, process is important. The second reason why we think process is important is because it makes work person independent. Now, what do we mean by that? Let us say you started some work and after a few days you had to go on leave. You were not well or you had something important at home, so you had to go on leave. And somebody else has to come and continue your work. Now, for this person to know what you have done so far and where this person should start from, process is very important. This person can easily look up the process definition and understand that you have completed steps 1, 2, 3, 4 and then start from step 5. Are we trying to say that if there are processes, we don't need people at all? No, that's not what we are saying. People are the biggest assets for any organization, but still, process brings down the dependency on people to quite a large extent. The third reason why we think process is very important, especially in a growing organization like Enable India, is because it is easy to train new people who join the organization if there is a process defined. Enable India has been rapidly growing for the last few years, and now with Garvse centers coming up, it's growing in different locations. There are a lot of Garvse coordinators, a lot of other people who are joining the organization. It's not just a home office, right? If that is the case, then everybody has to work in the same way. Each person cannot be working in a different way, right? If that's the case, the manager has to train each new person who joins the organization. If everything isn't going to be in the manager's mind, and the manager is going to train every new Garvse coordinator, A, there will not be quality training. The manager may not remember to tell the same things to every person, and the understanding of each person and working of each person may also change. But if there is a process defined, the manager finds it easy to train every new person in the same way, just like all of you are getting trained right now, and he can also check whether all of you understood the same thing. That's another advantage of having a process defined for an organization. The next reason why process is important is because it is useful for the manager to review your work and measure the impact of what you have done. Why do we say this? Let us say there are 10 Garvse centers all across the country, and each one of you do your work using your own set of processes. Now the manager will not know how to review each one of you because all of you are working in a different way and each one of you are achieving different results. Maybe the Garvse center in Karnataka is doing very well, but the Garvse center in West Bengal is not doing well. The manager will not know why. But if there is a process defined, the manager will be able to understand where the mistake is happening. He will be able to review every action of yours, and he will also understand the impact of Garvse centers as a whole in the country. Otherwise, imagine the confusion the manager is going to go through. The next reason, and according to us, the most important reason Why process is important in an organization like Enable India is because with process, it is easy to replicate work. What we have been doing at Enable India, Karnataka, Bangalore for 17 years now, we are now trying to do it in all the Garse centers across the country. How was that possible? Because process has been defined. It's easy to take the process and try it out in a new context. Now, are we trying to say that every process will work in every place? May not be. We may have to do a little bit of customization depending on the context of the place. But more or less, the process will remain the same for that entire activity. Now, does process mean that you cannot be creative in your work? Definitely not. People's creativity is the most important thing, especially in a training and livelihood organization like Enable India. Process will not curb you from your creativity, but definitely it will help you streamline your work and bring visibility to your work and tell your managers, your peers, your colleagues, the outside stakeholders what action you took to achieve your goal. That's the importance of process in an organization like Enable India. Now, how did process start in Enable India? It was in 2017, January, that the entire organization got together the first week of January, and we said we are going to focus on processes in this year. A staff training which was arranged to train the staff on processes. Different teams got together and they wrote down what process they are working on, the as-is process for their team. And then we used a tool called mind map, which I will be showing you in some time. Now, what we all did, we created process steps using this online tool called mind map. So when you go to the mind map, you will find different teams on the mind map, and when you click on each team, you will be able to see the different main activities done under the team, and when you further click, you will be able to see the sub activities. That way the activities keep branching out. Now, each activity has a name which people should understand by reading the name. For example, generating leads will be a process step under employment, and anybody reading it will understand that this is a process for generating new leads, right? Initial hand holding is a process under placement. Reading this, anybody will understand that this is the process people should follow when any candidate gets placed in a company and you have to handhold the candidate. And after that, it keeps branching out into smaller processes. There are notes, teams have added notes so that anybody reading the process will find it even more easy to understand how to work using this process. Many teams have also defined tools. What I mean by tools, it can be a checklist, it can be some tracker, it can be a Word document, it can be an SOP. Teams have defined these tools, and these tools have also been attached in those process steps, and you can actually go download it and start using these trackers and checklists and tools to execute your process. Now, we started off at process 0.1 in 2017 Jan. As on June 2018, we will be at process 2.0. At Enable India, we have a process champion team which is headed by our CEO, Deepesh Sataria. The other people right now in the process champion team are Mr. Santosh Kumar and myself, Deepti, and Mr. Natesh. You can also check with your manager if you have any queries regarding process, and that's the best person to go to. At Enable India, we have also created a process champion in every team, and this is the person who will actually write down the process, see what different people are doing, and create tools for the team. This person is the one who does all these things and then comes and gives it to the main process champion team. Alright. If you still have any queries regarding processes, you can always write to process@enableindia.org. That is PROCESS at enableindia.org. Now we are going to learn how to see the processes defined at Enable India. At Enable India, we have defined our processes using an application called Mind Manager.
This application may not be completely accessible for persons with vision impairment. So today I'm going to show you two ways in which you can understand the processes. One which is more suitable for persons with vision impairment and the others for sighted. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'll show you how to access for persons with vision impairment, which is using our server. You can go to 192.168.5.50 on the server and then click on EI underscore process. In that again go to EI underscore process underscore 1.0. In this there is a folder called Teams. Get into that. Now this folder has many subfolders and each of these subfolders represents the processes defined for the different teams of Enable India. For example, here we have processes defined for campaigns, candidate development, communication, content lifecycle, customer support, EDP, Enable Academy, Enable Alliance, so on and so forth. So you can get into each of these folders. You can understand the process defined by that team for their work. You can also see the different tools which have been defined by the process. Of course, you should understand one thing, that this is work in progress. Some teams have defined their processes to a large extent, while some new teams are still defining their processes. But you can find whatever is existent in these folders. Okay, and as Garfse Center managers, the important processes that you might want to look into are candidate development and wage employment. Two folders in this subfolder. These are the ones that you can look into. You can understand how the process has been defined. For example, let me get into wage employment. So they have defined what is called tools. So this has the different tools. This folder has the different tools defined for wage employment. The tools that a person doing wage employment will be using. They are placed over here, or the path of those tools is mentioned over here. I'm going back. There is also an Excel sheet which says Employer Lifecycle Process L2. I'm just opening that, and that has a lot of processes defined for wage employment. So you will be able to go through the different fields in that Excel sheet and understand to a certain extent how wage employment process happens. For example, here there is the job hand-holding process, the retention process, services process, there is a research process, etc. So go through this Excel sheet and of course check with your manager to see what you would want extra to understand this process. Okay? And when you want to understand any team's process, it's always a good idea to go into this folder structure, open the process defined by that team, go through all the tools and the process definition, and then you can always sit with a person from that team to understand more about this process. So this is how you access the processes using the folders on the server. Another way in which sighted people can access processes is, I'm going to do it from first. Go to any web browser and type portal.office.com. So the page, so the Office 365 home page comes here. Here you will find a process logo on the top. It has the Enable India logo, the candle on the left side, and the word process on the right side, and there is a picture of a flow chart on top. Click on that and then the Mind Manager will open. But this is going to take some time, and if it takes too much time, then you can again go back to the server, go to 192.168.5.50 EI underscore process, EI underscore process underscore 1.0, and then go to process maps, and you can click on EI process 1.6 web. That's the current version of process that exists right now. You can click on that and that will open the Mind Manager. If going through portal.office.com is taking a long time, like you can see, it is taking a long time because it's very bulky. It has the processes of different teams. Therefore, I'm directly trying to open it. So I've already opened the same thing on another window just to save time. Now, let me describe this. It says Enable India Process 1.6 on the top right, and in the center it says Process 1.6. From this, there are different branches on the right and on the left coming out. Some of the branches are green in color and some of the branches are red in color. And the names of these branches are, some of the names are Candidate Support, Candidate Development, Wage Employment, Enable Inclusion, Enable Vision, Enable Community, WPS, EDP, NGO Alliances and Consultancy, Enable Academy, and on the left side we have Human Resource, System Administrator, Operations, Communication, Content Lifecycle, Governance, and Enable Warning. These branches are exactly the same as the folders that I showed you on the server. I'm going to go back to the server for the sighted people. 192.168.5.50 EI underscore process, EI underscore process underscore 1.0 teams. So the different folders defined over here, more or less, that's the branch that is coming out from this central process 1.6. What are these processes which are red in color? These are processes which are still defining themselves. Those teams have not completely defined it because they are still trying to get more clarity on what process should be defined. The ones in green are more or less in a stable stage. That's what we mean, right? Now, as like I said, as Garse Center leads, the processes you will be interested in are candidate development. This deals mainly with training, awareness, research, course content, all these processes. So you can open that and you can look at the process. The second thing that you may be interested in is the wage employment process. I'm opening that as well, which has 3 sub branches. One is the account management, then the lead generation and the research. And you can further drill down through each one of them to understand what they mean. For example, under account management, we have something called service request, service agreement, recruitment, EI services other than recruitment, invoice processing, etc. So keep drilling down as much as you can and understand the process. Now, in many places, the team has also attached notes. So if you place the mouse over the notes, or even if you click them, I'm clicking it, on the right side, you will have the notes. For example, when I clicked on the notes which says account management, it says gives the process for various touch points of interaction with an account. So I hope the team has also defined it in this folder structure here. They've put it somewhere. We don't know. Mostly it will be there, which is why this is completely not VI friendly. We are trying to make it VI friendly, but that will take a little bit of time. So I request the sighted people to help the visually impaired friends to understand the Mind Manager. Candidate development is the process that we follow for developing any candidate across all disabilities. So mainly you will have to be interested in the awareness process and the training process. So I'm also expanding the training process. Under the training process, they've defined something like planning, preparation, sourcing, implementation, monitoring, evaluation, closure, etc. You can further drill down into how much ever you can, and you can also read the notes that are defined at these different stages. If you want to know the tools that are used for training, you can go back to the server you can go back to candidate development folder and you can probably look at where they have defined the tools. For example, I went into candidate development. I went into something called process map details. I went into something called awareness, and there is an awareness checklist over here. So that's probably what the team uses when they conduct awareness workshops. Okay, so that's how it works. I request you all to go through the different processes. Just open the mind map, read the notes, also keep the server open and try and understand the tools and the process definition for the different teams. Of course, you will get a complete hang of process only when you start working on it and somebody monitors you for the first 2-3 projects. You get feedback and then it becomes part of your working, right? But till then, whenever you have doubt, you can always come to the process map or you can go to the server and you can understand how processes are defined at Enable India. Now, if you have to work with some other team, okay, for example, you have some work with the system admin team, which is the IT team, then you will have to go and see what is the process defined by this team for different services that they offer. For example, they have a process defined for customer service, they have process defined for hardware and software maintenance, process defined for data file security, asset management, support, system procurement support. So you will have to read it before you interact with these other teams. Let's say you also want to request for some content. Then you will have to go to the content life cycle process and you will have to see what is the process defined by them when you have to request for a new content or you're helping them create a new content for your team. Then it is good to always go through the content life cycle process and understand what are the different things you will have to do if you have to work with them. So that's how processes help. You will be able to work on the activities of your team. You will also be able to work on the activities of other teams. Of course, like I said, get more help from your manager, get more help from people who are already following these processes, and then you will start following the processes. Only when you start using the tools and following the process, you will be able to give feedback on the process definition. Processes have been defined only for the people in the team to use. They've been defined by the team, for the team, and of the team. So give feedback to your manager on whether you're able to understand the process or not. Ask your manager to give you feedback on whether you're using the process correctly and whether you're following the process correctly. And other than all this, there will also be regular audits. We will audit projects done by your team at regular intervals so that you will be able to understand where you should improve in using processes for your projects. So this is about process definition at Enable India. You can always reach out to the process champion team. Currently the process champion team is Natesh, Santosh and Deepthi. You can reach out to us as well if you have any confusion regarding processes. Thank you so much.
So now you've seen the mind map, you've understood how to navigate through the mind map. As a person in the Garvse Center, the important processes for you are the business development process maybe and the candidate development process, but it's a good idea to go through the processes of all the other teams. Why? Maybe because you will understand how some other team does the same kind of work or similar work that you do, and you can probably learn from their best practices. Few other things that you will have to remember as a person following Enable India processes are: one thing, whenever a new person joins a team, it is the responsibility of the manager to train this person on the processes that this person will use using the mind map and the tools defined in the mind map. So remember to catch hold of your manager and get trained on Enable India processes so that tomorrow you don't feel you didn't know the process and you executed something in your own way. Second thing, the manager trains the team on processes, but it's the team's responsibility to execute the work correctly using processes and tools, right? So use the tools, use the processes, and if you feel something has to change, something has to improve, always talk to your manager. Your manager will communicate with the process champions team. If you have any doubts at any point with regard to process, check with your manager. There is no point in executing a process without understanding why it is done and how it is done. The next important thing, when you execute a particular action using a process, it's always good to get it audited by an internal person. It could be your manager, it could be your peer, at the end of the action. For example, let's take a big process like placement. Placement has a lot of sub-processes, and let us say you place 10 people, so that becomes like a project, right? So after this is done, always ask your manager or somebody in your own team to audit your work using the process defined. This will help you also understand whether you're going on the right track. The last thing that you have to remember is, at Enable India level, we have regular process audits. This usually happens once in a month, typically around the 22nd of the month. What we do is we ask the different teams to nominate projects from their teams. Auditors are actually staff from Enable India. So if I'm working in one team and you're working in another team, maybe I will become your auditor and you will become my auditor. So the process champion team forms a group of auditors. The process champion team asks the different teams to nominate projects for audit, and every month different projects get audited. After the audit, a report is sent to you and to your manager, and you will find details of what were the things that you complied with, what were the non-compliances, that means what did you not follow, what process did you not follow while executing this action. You will get this detailed report. The auditor may also tell you what are the best practices you used while executing this project. The auditor may also give you some recommendations saying, you did it like this, but I think it's better if you do it like that. You may get some recommendations like this, and you and your manager should work on the audit report, which means if you have not followed any process, it is for you to make these changes in your projects. Don't worry too much about what happens during external audits. Every month before the audits, we inform the entire staff about the procedure for the external audits. Your manager will also tell you how to go about an external audit, but have fun following processes at Enable India.